Welcome to this bonus episode of the Audiobook Club podcast. This is an episode apart from our main feed because we are currently listening to a longer book that will be released as a full episode upcoming. But for now, we just wanted to do a smaller book in between because it's going to be a while until everybody has finished that and where we'll all be able to record. So we decided that we would do a shorter book. And if you have read the title of this episode, you'll know that the book that we have decided to do is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Kevin Free was the narrator. So we decided to do a shorter book just so we can come on here and record a shorter episode. So probably just going to give our general thoughts on this in like half an hour or an hour, whatever, but somewhere between those two, I'm guessing. So yeah, I'm hosting, but I wouldn't really say I picked this book. I did suggest this book, so I suppose I can say why I suggested it. All I really knew about this book going into it was that it was very critically acclaimed. I knew it won some awards. I think it won a Hugo and a Nebula, or it was at least nominated for them. It's very, very critically acclaimed. It's now got a series as a series on Apple.
I think it might be, yeah. That's how I knew about it.
Yeah, it's now got a TV series, which has got a lot more people interested in the books. And this book here is very, very short, under 4 hours. So I think we said we'll do a bonus episode every now and then of like a book under 5 hours. See if we can find some books on that length. So I'll go on to you guys. Did you guys know anything about this book coming onto it? Jonathan, I spoke to you about this book, and you said it had been on your list. Did you know anything about it?
I didn't know anything about it, but yeah, it was on my list. I'd seen that I was actually like kind of looking for a load of short books because I feel like most of the books I'd be listening to now are like 15 plus hours. And I was like, I would really like a little shorter stories just for something different. And I remember seeing this in Northern Ireland, there's like the libraries, you can sign up for free and you get access to an app called Libby. And it's basically, you get access to like audiobooks and like actual books as well. And I remember seeing it in there and I was like, oh, that'll be great for this wee app because I'm basically getting that for free because it has a lot of books, Libby, but it doesn't have like as much as like Spotify or Audible. So like the fact that it was there was like, you know, that there's a good opportunity to listen to it on there. So that was all I really knew. I didn't know what it was about. I've seen the cover many times, so I could say, you know, I knew it was some kind of, it looked almost like, yeah, like space marine kind of thing. But that status is about the extent of what I knew about it.
Yeah, Jason, same question to you. Did you know anything about the book going on to this?
I weirdly only knew about it because, like, you know how on like your Fire Stick you get like adverts. I think I was getting adverts. Yeah. I think it was the Fire Stick anyways, but I was seeing adverts of one of the Skarsgård guys like holding his own head. And the show was called Murderbot. And I remember thinking that was an absolutely ridiculous title. So that was about the extent. I didn't realise it was based on a book until this book was suggested. And I was like, okay. All Systems Red sounds a bit better than Murderbot.
Yeah, cool. So we're just going to launch straight on to general thoughts on it then. I'll start with my general thoughts. As I was saying, this book is very critically acclaimed and everything, so I think there was maybe a bit of like high expectations going on to this. I thought the book was fun, but I struggled to see like anything extremely special about it. It was like a very very straightforward kind of action plot, sort of going through with a few obstacles, and I think the big draw to the story is probably like the main character, the Murderbot himself, and he has a very like endearing character. He's like this mix of, he's a cyborg. He's like sort of half human, half robot. I think he talks a lot about like how he's made of organic materials, and although that's true in a physical sense, it's also sort of the thematic like push of the story that he's kind of got this humanity within him that he's sort of grappling with, and he just he's kind of also got the reluctant hero going on. He doesn't really want to be part of the plot. He wants to be just watching TV shows. So I think it makes him a very endearing character that a lot of people can relate to, and that was probably a big draw for the story. Overall, I thought it was a strong story, but I was still finding a disconnect of how did this like why is it so critically acclaimed? Why does it stand out? Because to me, it just felt like another like solid science fiction story. So while I did enjoy the ride, I didn't see like what was so special about it. Well, go on to you, Jonathan, if you want to give your overall thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with more or less everything you just said. Like, I thought it was an interesting story in terms of, you know, being... I liked how it was, like, from his perspective, like, and he was... It felt like, for me, he was more, you know, robot than human. But, like, or at least that's how, like, the others seen him. Yeah, like, it was a very interesting concept. But, yeah, I didn't think it was, like, unbelievable story or anything like that. It was decent, but yeah, I wasn't completely drawn in or anything by it. Yeah, like I don't have too much more to add than that. Yeah, I've just more or less agree with everything you said.
Like one thing, see when it started too, it was like the opening line, the opening paragraph, which I thought was very good. Unfortunately, connection issues. I did have the paragraph in front of me, but I don't, so it's going to be like a paraphrasing it. But it's basically him talking about how he had like the 35,000 hours and basically to divide all his time, and while he should have spent it murdering or whatever, he spent most of it just watching. Spent all of it just watching shows and listening to music and stuff, and that he's not very good at murdering. So I think that set it up for like this feeling of we're going to get like a really, you know, those classic science fiction comedy, like really absurdist, really out there. Like we've already done like the really absurdist science fiction books before, like with Red Dwarf and Hitchhikers. So I thought it was going in that direction, but I thought like the humor in it was very subtle, and the themes were very subtle, but they were present there. Jason, I'll go on to you if you want to give your general thoughts on what you thought of the story.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much what you guys are saying. I feel like it's that from what you sort of said, like the reviews and the awards is one, like I felt like it was going to offer more than it did. I feel like maybe the big draw comes from like the sort of sentient robot kind of aspect of it, like that sort of AI draw. I think it came out in like 2017 when that was like just sort of picking up steam just ever so slightly, but I didn't feel like it gave us an awful lot. Like I think the premise is good, in that, you know, we're getting this, as you say, that opening sort of summary makes you think there's going to be a bit more humour to it, a bit more, but actually I just felt like he was just quite an awkward person, essentially. Didn't necessarily know if he was a good leading character, main character. It wasn't like almost this out of depthness to him. It was just more like he just felt like he just didn't want anything to do with the humans didn't really want anything to do with him. He just felt like more of an outcast than anything. And I felt the actual just plot was just like sort of straight down the middle, nothing too exciting. Very much just like, here's some action. Here's, we're going to walk a little bit. Here's some more action. Oh, here's a bit of a plot twist at the end. Here's how it's resolved. And also, I suppose, I think part of that feeling of it being a bit more on the sort of boring, monotonous, dull end, it just felt like the narrator, Kevin Free, it was a bit almost monotone at times, and just didn't really offer us very much to help with the comedy, help with like the excitement. So I thought overall it was okay. It was an okay book.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you next about Kevin Free's performance. I agree with you that he was very monotone. I do think that was like an intentional affectation of like his performance. I think he was trying to do like this robotic thing with like really subtle human elements, and I don't maybe for you went too far into the monotone, but I thought it was like his performance was okay. Like it was nothing. It wasn't a big draw for the story. I wouldn't be like saying to people, oh, you have to listen to the audiobook version of it. It would be kind of like, oh, you can read it or you can listen to it, sort of. So yeah. I thought the performance, it didn't take anything away from the book, but I don't think it elevated it in any way either. What do you think, Jonathan, about Kevin Free's narration?
Yeah, I'd agree. Like, I think that, like what you said there, that it was intentional. Like, it's because of the character himself. He was just this kind of almost like boring cyborg being, and yeah, I thought like that is exactly the voice that you would use for him. But yeah, like it's again, I like would say that it is just the way the book is. Like, there isn't much opportunity for the narrator himself to be more creative than that. So yeah, it was grand. It easy enough to listen to and understand, but yeah, it was nothing special.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of touch on that a bit more before we move on, but as Michael sort of said, I think the book offers up this sort of quirkiness at the start, but then just doesn't really play on it an awful lot. Probably fair enough to say like he is playing a robot and he was just doing a very robotic voice, but I don't feel he had to. I think he could have made it a bit more exciting potentially and still give it robotic vibes. And interestingly, I seen when I was getting this book on Audible that they have also released a dramatized adaptation of the story. So I wonder, is that potentially related to like people having similar feelings that it was a bit monotonous and dull? So they have sort of released something a bit more exciting. Although I think that was rated quite poorly from looking at it. So
Right. With that being said, we'll just go over the summary of the story here. Here's one from Goodreads that I'll just read out verbatim. In a corporate-dominated spacefaring future, planetary missions must be approved and supplied by the company. For their own safety, exploratory teams are accompanied by company-supplied security androids. But in a society where contracts are awarded to the lowest bidder, safety isn't a primary concern. On a distant planet, a team of scientists is conducting surface tests, shadowed by their company-supplied droid, a self-aware sec unit that has hacked its own governor module and refers to itself, though never out loud, as Murderbot. Scornful of humans, Murderbot wants to be left alone long enough to figure out who it is, but when a neighbouring mission goes dark, it's up to the scientists and Murderbot to get to the truth. So that's more the premise than the actual everything that happens in the book. What did you guys think of the premise anyway? Like, was it an intriguing idea when you started the story? I'll go to you first, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think I mentioned like a wee bit of that whenever I was kind of giving my overall thoughts. I like the idea that you had this like exploration mission, whatever was going on, and yeah, like I was like, I think what really was pulling me in about this book was, how can they do something like this in 3 hours? That was kind of where most of my interest lay in, like, coming into this book and just doing this kind of exploration with this, this main like protagonist being basically this described as this murder bot, but then being like, well, I mean, is this going to be all action and people getting blown to bits and all, or is it just going to be him watching TV shows and all? As it kind of starts off with like, that's where you find out that's what his like interests are and stuff. But yeah, I thought like the premise is good, and yeah, I think not to maybe go against kind of why I got into was for the short story, but I feel like if it was longer, you could have done more. I feel like you mentioned there that there is like a TV show or something, and then I know there's a few of these books in this series, so I guess like the same idea is explored more in different books. So I think I would still be interested to like look at those as well.
Yeah, I have read about it. That some people who are underwhelmed by this book, like they're recommended the classic thing, continue the series and you'll appreciate it more. But as we always say on the podcast, like we have to take it like as the standalone book for what we know in the moment. Jason, what about you? Did you find the premise, did it draw you in like right away? Did you find it an interesting idea?
No, I thought it was a very good idea. I think the whole idea of like this sort of planet to planet expeditions, security groups going on these, missions, operations is quite exciting. Like, it clearly gives you like a feel for the world, like this sort of cyberpunky humans, robots all working together, albeit that the robots are supposed to be, under control. Although I think the spiciness of this plot is that, this robot is actually autonomous. They've hacked themselves essentially. I think as a premise, it's a great idea. I think, again, there's that, I suppose, yeah, as you say, the pitfalls of us in the audiobook format and the one book at a time format is that maybe wasn't just explored as well as it could have been. I felt, again, with a wilder world and a bit more of a time to flesh it out, there would have been more to it. But what it sort of navigated into was, to me, almost felt like just a speed run of a mission.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. We'll get into a bit of like what actually happens in this book then. So the team of scientists that are doing the expedition on this planet that the Murderbot is like accompanying, almost acting as like a bodyguard. Two of them are attacked like by a giant worm, and the Murderbot intervenes and saves them. And when they return to like the main group, there's a couple of like awkward scenes where the Murderbot like reveals his face, and he's realized that he's making them uncomfortable because they haven't seen his face, and he looks very human because of his organic materials. So the team they communicate with another team that are stationed on this planet as well, but they lose contact with them. So Dr. Mensa, like the head of this team, they take a trip out. She takes a trip out with the Murderbot to this other station, and they find that the other crew have been brutally murdered. So when they're there, the Murderbot, he disables some of the remaining sec units, but two others appear, and he destroys one. Mensa takes the other. The Murderbot is injured, and he realizes that there's a combat override module into the necks of these bots. So wondering who's behind it, putting them against the team that they were out with. So shortly after this, the team, they discover that the Murderbot is autonomous, and that he once malfunctioned and murdered 57 people. The Murderbot kind of, the way he sort of explains it is like it's basically the government or the manufacturers using like cheap parts, and he overrided this after, and this is the reason he's no longer really a threat and part of his motivation to become autonomous. So I thought that's the big twist sort of the book, I think, the big reveal of the backstory. What did you guys think of that moment? I thought it was an intriguing bit of character development on the Murderbot, and it went quite dark, especially for like a character who's supposed to be so like nice and endearing to have committed this like big mass murder and as part of his backstory. But I thought it was a pretty cool twist. What did you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it for, he is a Murderbot, like that. This is what he was supposed to be doing. And obviously, like, as we've kind of got to know him, I guess, like, we've kind of been like, well, this one's not, we know he's not, or he's like outside the system, or he's like got this like governing module and all turned off. He's like more sentient than he should be, basically. And yeah, like, it's mad that like you can make a twist like this by saying that no, he actually was at one stage doing exactly what he was designed to do, which I thought was quite an interesting way to make a twist. It's like twisted into the obvious that wasn't what he was actually doing in the first place. If that makes sense. So yeah, I quite liked it.
Yes, same question to you, Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it sort of frames this murder of all these humans more as like an accidental murder was how I sort of got it, rather than just like him doing his job, because obviously his job is to murder things, as we pointed out. I sort of took it as like it was a malfunction, and that's how he ended up murdering him, and then that's how he ended up overriding it because of like the faulty parts. But yeah, it's pretty grim, definitely. I liked the sort of sequence leading up to it, with the sort of fight scene between the other robots and them sort of trying to hack him, and the Dr. Mensa and the team sort of discovering his autonomy. Although again, as I said, then it just sort of reverts back into, well, I don't trust him, he's a robot, which was pretty much what was happening beforehand anyways. So I don't know if it really took the plot much further forward, at least in this midsection. You can maybe argue further in the book it maybe has changed things a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that. The rest of the book then, so the Murderbot kind of he asks these surveyors like if there would be any others on the planet, and they kind of say, oh, there could potentially be any number, and so they theorize that there's like this third group, and then they realize there is like an evil survey team also on the planet trying to take out preservation and the other one that they already have taken out. They plan to meet at a rendezvous point to negotiate their survival. The Murderbot knows, though, that they won't let them live. So it kind of comes up with this plan to negotiate, to be selfishly negotiating its own freedom So they're surprised that the Murderbot is speaking to them in these terms, and that, you know, that it is autonomous, and they're thinking that it must be some sort of trick and everything. So this works as a distraction for the preservation scientists to access the hub and to activate their emergency beacon. The plan works, but the Murderbot is injured protecting Mensa from the explosion of the launch. Later, the Sec unit finds itself repaired and retaining its memories and disabled Governor module. Mensa has bought its contract and will bring it back to the Preservation's home base, where it can live. Though grateful, Murderbot is reluctant to have its decisions made for it and slips on a cargo ship. So that's how the book ends. I saw a few reviews. It was probably one of the only negative things I saw, where people said it kind of fizzled the ending, but I actually thought it was quite a satisfying ending, for as much as I didn't agree with all the praise of the book that was heaped on the book. I thought it was a very fitting thematic ending, that the Murderbot was going to be like given this freedom from Mensa as like this acknowledgement that he sort of is on level terms with people, but that's still not really his free choice, and his free choice is kind of to go his own path into the unknown. And I kind of like that, and I don't know if this continues with his character, but I think if it does, that leaves it in a more interesting place than just going to like Sanctuary or whatever. What did you guys think of the latter part of the book and the ending? I'll go to you first again, Jonathan.
Yeah, I thought the ending was okay. It's like I actually quite liked that it ended. Like it looked like it was ending kind of like this wee sweet nice ending, that he was kind of getting freed from what he was normally doing, but he still felt in some way enslaved in that way, and he wanted to do what he wanted to do, even though he doesn't know what that is. So I thought it was quite a nice ending, in terms of definitely in terms of setting up another book, because it it's kind of like what happens next now with him. So I feel like this ending again is kind of it was definitely could be like a self-contained book, but at the same time sets up the next one, which is kind of a good ending. Like, we always have that criticism of not being a self-contained book, but I felt that this was like a self-contained story, and then has that opening for another book in the future, which obviously we know there is. So yeah, I liked the ending, thought it was good. I mean, again, overall the whole book was just okay, and I think the ending, it was just kind of fitted in with that for me.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with you there. I think it definitely does tell a self-contained story. It's kind of just this little isolated adventure, small in scale, and of course it has to be this sort of size book. I do like reading those kind of small scale stories every now and then, so it worked for me. I definitely found it was satisfying in the way that it told a full story. It definitely wasn't just like a prologue to something else. Jason, what did you think of the latter half of the book and the ending?
Well, you sort of took the word out of my mouth there for the ending. Definitely, I felt the ending was actually satisfying. I do probably have a lot of, not critiques. I think critiques is strong, but I think like the premise. Maybe it is mentioned. I'm not entirely sure why there's a third team there trying to kill the other two teams. I didn't really quite know what was going on, why it was going on, but I also just didn't really find it all that exciting or dangerous, or there was never really that much peril, I sort of found. But I did really I felt it was very satisfying to have the Murderbot choose to go its own path rather than even be free under Mensa. I liked that they had sort of warmed around to him enough to try and sort of free him, but I don't know if I would say that was entirely earned, even over the course of the 3 hours, but I definitely felt the Murderbot going his own path was satisfying, was earned, and actually a nice conclusion to the book. And even though I've sort of said it's been okay, but it would make me consider listening to the next sort of books. I think that sort of premise, again, it's just very enticing that maybe now we'll get more of maybe what I wanted in this book. We'll maybe get a bit more of his self-awareness and that sort of side of things in the following books, rather than just a B-plot action movie with a robot that likes Coronation Street.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's such a little commitment to your time, that you can kind of just hammer it out in a few sessions, or whatever. Potentially one if you were so inclined. Like, I think that makes it more appealing to like potentially continue it and see if there is like see if what a lot of reviewers have said holds up to be true, that you get more endeared to the series as you continue. I don't know like what you guys thought about the characterization in this book. Obviously there's not a lot with it being such a short book. Mostly as the murder bot, and it's very, very light touches on the team itself. We get a bit of like Mensa's character and sort of get sort of an idea of who she is, but yeah, it's mostly through the murder bot. Do you guys like I don't know, like maybe I've read it wrong, that these are possibly self-contained stories in the same universe or something like that. Would you guys prefer that, or would you prefer to continue with Murderbot? Did he like endear you as a character to continue with him?
Both yes and no. I mean, like I don't see. I mean, the way the book ended with like this, you know, he's going out there to do his own thing, but we don't know what that is. Obviously left it open that you could see that story, but then you also have the argument like maybe you just leave that open to interpretation and you just move on to something else. So yeah, I feel like I'm split on it. Like if the second book, I don't know, I haven't like even looked into what the other books are about, but if the book was about this Murderbot, I would still listen to it, and if there is no other book about him and it's about something else in the same universe, then I would still read it. So yeah, like either way I think would be happy enough. So yeah, I don't have a preference on it.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong too about like that whether it does continue with him or not. I read that in one review and maybe I misinterpreted what they said or something like that, so I don't really know where it goes from here. But same question to you, Jason. Would you like to continue with Murderbot like as a character?
I think based on that ending, yes. Probably if it didn't end like that and it was setting up maybe just more of the same, I would probably say no. But based on that ending and potential more explanation of like him on his own and the sentence, potentially, I don't think I would want to follow this series if it was a completely different character, because I think the issue with novellas is that like it's a struggle to get them fleshed out, a struggle to make me care an awful lot over the course of 3 years. I think if we just did that every sort of 100 odd pages or so, whatever it is, I don't know if I would really care that much about it.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see what you're saying there. Like a longer book, I'm not sure if I would be committed to that based on what we know of him as a character. I can see why people love him. You know, it does have a lot of endearing traits and a lot of relatable traits, and this like character who should fundamentally be unrelatable. So there's just something very engaging about that. Anyway, I think that should be a review. Unless you guys want to add anything else, I think we should jump onto the ratings, if that's okay with you guys.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Star rating.
Right, that's grand. So since I'm hosting, I'll pick the order here. I'll go first. As I said at the top of the show, I thought it was a fine science fiction story. It was solid. It had all the beats that it should have had. It was a good, straightforward adventure. I think it's impressive that it manages to do that and manages to give you such a likable protagonist within its runtime. And I think there's a lot of skill in doing that and writing a novella and drawing you in like that. But at the same time, like I said, I can't really see where the massive praise comes from. I just feel like there's something that I'm not getting. That's a lot of like the 5 stars and top marks ratings have given this. I don't think it brought anything very new to the table for like topics like humanity and AI and themes that obviously have a lot of prescience for us at the moment. But you know, overall, I thought overall probably just if I read this like in an anthology and a science fiction anthology, it probably would stand out slightly more than a lot of other stories. So I do think it is well written in that regard. So I'm gonna give this a 6.5 for me out of 10. I'll keep the same order that I've been keeping the whole show. Jonathan, I'll go to you next if you want to give your final thoughts and your rating.
Yeah, I mean, overall it was a decent book. Nothing special, but definitely wasn't horrible. You know, it was short and sweet kind of. I think, yeah, like you were making a point there, like, you know, if this was a lot longer story, I don't know if I'd be as interested. I think the fact that it is short is definitely a plus, because I don't think I could just listen to the same, because it seems like it's one of them stories there's not a lot else you can do. Like, it's just, them going around this planet or whatever and fighting people and the bot murdering people or whatever. Like, that's about the height of it. Like, it seems like, I'm sure creatively you can explore this universe more and all like that, but in terms of this story itself, like, I don't see where else it could have went. So yeah, just for me, it was just okay, just kind of middle of the road. So I'm going to go for a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, no problem. Jason, I'll go to you next if you want to give your final thoughts on your rating.
Yeah, I think singing off the sort of same hymn sheet as Johnny. What I tried to say is, like, they could have done more of this book. I think they could have even done more of this book in a 3-hour runtime. I really, same as yourself, Michael, I have no idea why it's got so much praise. I felt it was very run-of-the-mill. My score, I would probably just go the same as Johnny. I don't dislike it, but I wouldn't really go as far as liking it. I think I'm just okay about it. I'm just meh about it, So probably a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think that kind of reflects what you guys have said. We obviously have a disconnect with people who really love this book. So if anybody out there did love this book and there's something that we just didn't get, our email is there. If you want to write on, we would love to hear your thoughts and even read them out on a future episode. But there's not much really more to say on it. I think we can acknowledge the fact that this is a series. We've talked about that a couple of times now. The Apple TV. Would you guys have like any intention of watching that after listening to this book?
I think I probably would. Yeah, like, it seems like the premise is good. Yeah, I feel like this is something Apple, like, Stephen isn't here, our local Apple enthusiast, but like, all the shows that he's spouted on about and the ones that I've seen have all been good on Apple. So I feel like, yeah, if they can make a good TV show with a decent premise. So yeah, I'll probably give it a watch.
I don't think I would.
No, you wouldn't.
I think if they really fleshed out the characters and gave us more, but I think it's going to just follow the same plot line as what we've just experienced, but maybe fleshed out over 10 episodes. I imagine maybe less than that, but no, I don't think so.
I did hear a wee bit of buzz about this show when it came out. If future seasons got more buzz, and I heard a lot of people talking to it, I could potentially see myself getting some sort of FOMO and going on if that happened. But yeah, as is, I wouldn't be putting it top of my list to go out and see. But I actually might look into like another book because I could see myself just like, I want to read something or listen to something short, and now I know that this series, although I don't know if the books might get potentially longer. I haven't actually looked at that, but yeah, I could see myself actually listening to more of this series just to see if it clicks with me more, and then maybe that would spike more interest in watching the show. Yeah,
I would probably give the second book a go, but if it didn't agree with me, I don't think I would definitely wouldn't go to the third.
Yeah. So as far as trivia, it's mentioned that it's won the Hugo and the Nebula. I think this was originally published on Tor.com. So interesting that this first appeared as like an online story. That's grand. So we may do this bonus episode again in the future, and have a think. We're probably not going to announce what book the book is on the episodes the way we do normally. As Jonathan said, we'll do it as a surprise. So if you see the episode appear, you can go listen to the book before you hop on, or just skip these ones if you don't want to listen to it, or do whatever, But we'll probably do one of these every now and then. But yeah, so we're going to keep this short and sweet the way the book was kept short and sweet, and I think that's us, unless there's anything else you guys want to say.
No.
All right.
See you on the
flip. Catch you later.
See you later, lads.